Hey Reddit, what was the saddest moment in your life? In 7th grade, my 30-year cousin died. She was a bikini model that was in a toxic situation where her managers and friends were only rich white guys and would make her go far. My aunt convinced her to get an abortion, and about a year later her boyfriend died on a motorcycle the night she got on a flight. She was found on the floor of a party with enough pills to overdose, and it was said she could have made it if someone just noticed her. She was my favorite person and I looked up to her. She wrote me letters in the mail which I never got to return. I regret not writing back. Found a beggar searching a dumpster for food. Must not have bathed or eaten in days by the looks of it. So I quickly grabbed him some food to eat from a restaurant next door, handed it over to him. He had a look at it and kept the food away. Continued digging the dumpster until he found some rotten leftover food. He proceeded to eat it right in front of me. It hit me then that is all he has known in ages perhaps. Didn't really matter what it was. He was conditioned to eat anything and everything to kill hunger. Broke my heart indeed. My daughter, named her Charlotte, born June 3rd, 2021 at 12 p.m., took her first and last breath, then died 4 hours later in my arms. She had an omphalocele, org wiki omphalocele. She was born at 22 West pregnancy with 0 chances of survival. Went to palliative care as she was born. We loved her so much. I could feel pain through my bone, like literally, my whole body would hurt. Had to focus on just being alive a minute at a time. I clenched and grinded my teeth to the point of making permanent damage. The day I had to take my teenage daughter to the hospital for the first time because of how quickly her mental health was deteriorating and how bad self-harming has gotten. 15 years ago, and nothing seemed to work then. I was holding it together while I was with her. I totally lost it as soon as I made it home. I just literally sat on the floor and cried for 2 hours straight. Things were looking rather grim for a while, but we both are doing much better now. Chugging along, still figuring things out. My dad's death for sure. He worked on an oil rig and some moron didn't park their truck correctly on top of a hill, and it rolled down and crushed my dad against a concrete wall. Offered to try to stop his organs from failing, but they weren't confident that surgery would go well since they were all crushed, so they just put him in a hospital room and gave him a bunch of drugs. At the very least, I'm thankful that I got to sit with him and say goodbye. I'm crying. When my ex moved out to live with her boyfriend and our daughter went with her, they moved to another city about 90 minutes away on the train. And she needed help moving the last few things, so I went with them. I went with them to the station in their new city and dropped them off with the bags. Then I got to stand back a bit. Watch this man walk in. Hug them both before they all left together to go their new home, followed by my 90-minute journey home alone to our empty apartment. I know the future holds the true saddest moment of my life. But for now, seeing my ex for the last time after she moved out. We met in a parking lot to exchange some items. She decided to jump into my arms and hug me tighter than ever before while bawling her eyes out. It was too late at that point. The damage had been done, and we both knew it was the last time we would see each other. I loved her more than anything. Breaks my heart every time I drive past that lot. When my cat, Yoda, died, his anatomy was messed up and he had constant urinary blockages. Paid thousands for emergency surgery, only for it to reoccur a year later. Vet told me this would be his life. It was so hard to say goodbye. He wasn't even 2. I know it's just a pet, and people will have way harder stories involving actual humans. But at that point in my life, my 2 cats were my everything. And Yoda had an amazing personality. It hit me really hard. My dad went on vacation to Myrtle Beach. Retty well for about 2 years at this point. Right after my youngest son was born, he came around and we seemed to tolerate each other more. On his trip, he went swimming, dove under and never woke up. He was declared brain dead with absolutely no reason. Was cremated and mailed home. We live in Michigan. Still can't tell you why or how he died. My maid used to beat me up and do other things that honestly ruined me. I told my mum about it, and it turns out the maid got to her first and told her I had injured myself and would blame her. Things escalated from there. In my mind, my mum would never believe what I said. I have remember the face when I told her she had hit me. I can't forget it, and it has been 20 years already. I thought no man would ever love me because I was used and dirty. Mother's Day, May 10th, 2020. I got the call that my dad died in his sleep. Totally sudden, no one saw it coming. Because of COVID restrictions, I hadn't seen him in months. He had been begging me to come visit him, saying he was so lonely and couldn't make it through shelter in place without seeing me. I avoided going because he had really bad asthma and I was so scared to get him sick. I will regret that for the rest of my life. Hugging my ex-girlfriend for the last time, knowing that the next day she was gonna move away and I'd never see her again. But that's not the part that hurt. Her hug was limp. She felt nothing, hardly gave me a goodbye. She didn't love me anymore and likely felt nothing separating from me after 3 years. I loved her with all my heart and she was gone with no care in her world. Took a lot of therapy to get through that one. My first husband leaving me for another woman when I was pregnant. He never wanted our son. If he would have left me for a young, beautiful, rich woman, I could have accepted it better. He chose an older, ugly, worthless, lazy woman. I always worked. He complained about the child and spousal support. He always said he didn't have money, but he supported her lazy ass. He eventually left the state to get out of child support. Honestly, after spending a relatively long time thinking over this question, I realize my life hasn't been very sad. I mean, sure there was a fair bit of craziness, ups and downs, rough and rumbles and all of that as one experiences, but none of it in any sense particularly tragic. My sympathies to all of the rest of you in this thread with your substantial tragedies. To all of you, I truly wish you're doing better. I had many, but now I can't think of any of them since I'm living a huge one. My cat is sick. She's so young, only 3 years old. She couldn't even hold herself standing on her legs. I tried to help her and she fell. I took her to the vet and they had to keep her there. This is gonna be a long night. I can feel her everywhere. I unconsciously stretch my hand to pet her before I remember. Your prayers, people. My son was 3 months old. I couldn't stop buying $300 for $100 worth of heroin a day. The love I experience from him is the greatest emotion I have ever experienced, and it wasn't enough to get my clean. I'm 3 years clean. He is turning 4 on July 1st. I have him more than 50. His love is what finally made me put the work and effort in to be a positive role model for him and be active in his life. 2 years ago, I went to kickboxing class on Saturday morning, but the instructor hadn't shown up. This was not like him, as he was always 15 minutes early for everything. Worried, my group and I tried calling him, but he never picked up. We walked to his house, and his car was in the driveway. The house door was ajar, so we went in, and I found him dead in the bathtub with the shotgun. When my great-grandmother passed away, I was on vacation with my friends. My friends didn't care that I was hurting and needed to go home. They pretty much said it's not that serious. You have other grandparents. When in reality, I did not. She was my everything. I never got to say goodbye to her. I'm still scared to see her stoned because I feel bad that I never said goodbye. My fiancé broke our engagement and left 2 years ago. We had issues with my infertility, but I thought we were working through them. She had promised me she wasn't going to give up on us, and I believed her. I remember sitting on the back porch watching her pack her things into her car and walk out of my life. It literally broke me. I've given up on love since then. Watching my mum hooked up to a ventilator for weeks, fighting for her life, struggling to breathe before eventually dying in front of us. She was a healthy, beautiful woman before, and COVID made her almost unrecognizable by the end. I've never felt so much pain, heartbreak, and anger. She didn't need to die that way. I ran outside screaming at the sky, bawling my eyes out. At a convention, a dad and his son waited to play Mario Kart 8. The son got distracted playing another demo. When their turn came, the dad wanted his son to join, but got refused as the son was busy playing Star Fox Zero. The dad tried playing alone with a Nintendo helper, but seemed disheartened. It was clear he just wanted to spend time with his son at the convention. My sister and niece dying in a car accident. She was 6 weeks pregnant at the time, and my niece was only 9 years old. She also had an 11-year-old daughter and 1-year-old son. I was also in the accident, and I still hear my mother scream sometimes, just like it was yesterday when they told her the news. Seeing her go through the process of grieving scarred me for life. Happened the other day. A mum was visiting her daughter in residential eating disorder treatment. I went to let them know that visiting was up. They were laying on a bed, holding each other, the mum kissing her daughter on the head and telling her how much she loves her while the kid sobbed. I've seen lots of sad, tragic shit in my life, but this one broke my heart. Inpatient unit for suicidal intentions, and she told me on the way into the building that if she did eventually go through with killing herself, it wasn't my fault, and she knew that I did all I could. This was 4.5 years ago, and I still cry when I remember it. Thankfully her life was saved, but I'm ever vigilant.